Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to have you on the audience. But sometimes it's not a pleasure to have my panelists on the show. What they do is when I'm making this introduction, they're gesturing, they're mimicking, and it's not allowed, really. But what are you going to do, right?
You're going to tell us what to do?
They practically have usurped the city government, and the new mayor is having his problems, and the panelists here have been watching very, very closely. The mayor has been in office for barely over a week, and last night he got what they say, a little tumble. So we'll find out what exactly happened last night.
Strike two.
Gentlemen, CJ, Bob.
Prodigal son has returned. Nice to be here, Richard.
How you doing, Rich?
So, anybody show up at the city council meeting last night?
There was nobody there except me, serving him with a complaint.
What kind of a complaint?
A 38 complaint.
No, I spoke against the drugs opposition.
You did,
Yeah.
Dan.
Yeah, I'm taking a position that I'm going to virtually no city council meeting since the meeting has actually taken place before they have the meeting.
Exactly.
So why bother going? But I will only be there if I have absolute business that I have to really get to, because since they have gone on record and said that they meet on everything before the meeting, you know, it's pointless to go to the city council meeting since the business is already done.
So what happened to the Freedom of Information Act?
That's why we have a 38
As
complaint against him.
as one of our new city councilors said, I will meet anytime I want. And nobody's going to tell me. It's irrelevant that the state has regulations against it, but who cares?
Dan,
As previous
Dan,
lawyers have said.
Dan, you addressed the council
Yeah, I did.
last night?
Well, I spoke
Only 3 minutes?
Yeah, and President Kadim advises speakers when they have 15 seconds to wrap up.
And what did you...
We spoke about the drugs opposition and the complete utter whack and need for it in the city. Mayor Correa really wanted to get the city in the drug prevention business. We have agencies and other facilities capable of doing that work at the grand tune of $65,000 to a childhood mentor. But I guess, as I predicted last night right after the vote, he's going to, it's not going to be an ordinance position. He will now give Mr. Agee at the pleasure of the mayor position.
So, the mayor got a little setback last night, Bob?
Yeah, it's kind of like saying the Titanic had a minor accident, but it's kind of like the Titanic. Yeah, his first official act that basically is mayor that went before the council, a council that he had already said he had the votes in, basically.
Wrapped up?
He did have the votes. He had the no votes.
He had the no votes. So he lost something that was extremely personal to him, which, you know, the political. The political fallout from this is gonna last a very, very long time.
Yeah, and we were talking about that before, and apparently if he keeps trying to get this person in to the government, it could be a problem because people may not like any kind of end run.
You know,
losing at the city council level.
Right, and every mayor has had, with the past 3 mayors, including now Jay's LaCrere, has had the kryptonite, the one item that can destroy the candidacy.
Oh.
Okay, Will Flanagan had the purple bags, Sam Sutter had the sanitation fee, and now...
And Bob Critter with the rainwater.
Well, and that's the 3rd mayor that went back. There's a rainwater. So when it comes to money, the people are very sensitive. The taxpayer is not going to spend any more money.
Well, you're right, because they've become very aware now, very sensitive, since many people have addressed the council, the recall effort.
See what you did, Chip?
The city is changed, Bob, hasn't it?
Yeah, some people condemn the recall. Actually, one one person who's not from Fall River called it a stain on Fall River rather than an exercise.
It wasn't democracy?
No, that's what I call it.
This
When the
lawyer
citizens-
obviously doesn't know.
When citizens actually rise up to try to change government, that's what this country was founded on. You know, the fact that we are actually it's not even suggested, it's demanded that.
It was created by a revolution.
When a government fails to represent the people, we're obligated to try to change it. But the recall got a lot of people involved in politics.
A lot of people.
They're beginning to become more and more educated. They're paying attention. And obviously, a lot of this stuff isn't working. For years, they've covered up the fact that this city was, you know, the second poorest city, and we've now lost that title. We're now the poorest city in the state. And people are getting upset. You know, I mean, they don't have money to pay their tax bills. They don't have money, and there's this endless parade of total political positions that are being added, while then they come back and say, we need more money to keep fire, police. We need more money for this. We need more money for that. Yet they'll find money for this position, and it's almost a clash in you know, what government is. And it's like Milton Friedman said, one of my favorite quotes, you know, if you give the government the Sahara Desert, we'll run out of sand in 5 years.
Now, people are still smarting somewhat over the fact that the new mayor is going to retain the corporate counsel.
Right.
And during his campaign, the new mayor said that, corporate counsel was someone that had to go and never should have been hired to begin with. Now, the retention, Dan, how does that fit in to the scheme of things?
It's, as we were talking about earlier, Richard, it started with his transitional advisors, and in that group, there was nobody with solid political experience in my judgment. So that was the first mistake. The second black eye for Mayor Correa was the retention of Joe Macy, in my opinion, because of the fact that he made that a theme in his campaign against Sam Sutter. Because Sam Sutter gave Joe Macy approximately $92,000 a year, and the fact of the matter is he can only work 960 hours a year, which averages out to 18 hours a week.
Wow, that...
And by the way, a little bird whispered to me today, when I was
going to say it, but
when I was in a government center, that Joe Macy is looking to hire an addition to the law department.
An addition.
So here we go. We retained a part-time attorney
at full-time wages.
At full-time wages, and now he needs help because.
Well, isn't there another attorney in the office?
Which raises the question.
But
in addition.
Okay, in addition to the one that's already there.
Yeah.
So we're back up to...
back up to our complement. We had Gary Howiak's still there.
Yep. It was Gary, Liz, and the little friend.
Yeah,
Diorio. Now we're going to be Macy,
now we're trying to
Howiak, and
replace
somebody else.
Diorio.
Yep.
As we predicted, you know, how long ago on the show that, you know, ultimately we would get all the attorneys back. And as you said, you know, Ageless' theme when he ran was part-time people for full-time wages. And he not only retained, but he also retained Kathy Ann Viveris.
Right.
And
So actually, we're going to have two and a half attorneys.
Yeah, two and a half.
Well, one can only work half-time, right?
Yeah.
And the other two apparently will be working full-time.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Gary was hired as a part-time employee. So we're going to have 2 part-timers and, I don't know, maybe 1 full-timer. And this is where the problem happens. We don't have a legal counsel, corporate counsel for the city, that can work. We always farm it out. And how many times do we have to look back at Dominion? How many times are we going to say Dominion, Dominion, Dominion?
And how many times do we have to realize throughout the years that even when we had a large law department, when any time we had a major case, they always hired outside attorneys.
Attorney Howiak goes back to the Lambert administration.
So,
He was
big news tomorrow, apparently, some sort of
3:30 tomorrow.
a press conference coming up tomorrow.
Well, actually, when they watch this show, it will be today.
All right, so
And it would have already happened.
You
But
going
at
to break
3:30
the news?
Yeah, at 3:30 tomorrow, Mayor Correa, I had to stop myself because I was going to call him his nickname, has announced that he will be having a 3:30 press conference on the 6th floor to announce the reorganization of city government, including the addition of another city department. I
Another
wonder what
department.
that means, Chip. And the termination of current positions in city government.
So I guess it was said that there were about 11 city department heads that have not been told that they would be retained. Am I correct, or is that?
They didn't say they wouldn't be retained. He said that he has not reviewed whether or not he'd give them a new contract.
All right, so they're all up, all these people are up for...
Except for fire and police.
Except for fire and police.
There's between 7 and 11 of
Yep.
them, I believe.
So that's quite a few people that are wondering if they're going to have a job next week.
And I'm going to go back to a quote given on the 10 news conference for JAR with Parker Gavigan, which, Parker actually turned around and cut him off. But he said, I am going to bring the best and the brightest to my administration from Rhode Island.
From Rhode
I had to
Island.
replay that several times to get it because Parker knew where he was going, so he tried to cut him off, and he went to commercial. But you heard it.
No one in Fall River, no one
Yeah, well, 'cause,
in
Fall River, we're all too
Massachusetts,
stupid.
Bristol County.
No, he just made 10 recommendations for the school department, and 9 out of those 10 people were from, not from Fall River, and some of those positions really, I mean, I find it hard to believe we couldn't find somebody qualified to be a janitor.
I know.
That doesn't have a job in Fall River. But the person he recommended for the janitorial job was from the Sonnet. So, and his reorganizations, I mean, when we talked about reorganization for the city, we meant streamlining and cutting, not adding, new departments, which mean new supervisory positions, which means new ways to put in all your childhood friends.
Now, is this coming out of the blue, so to speak? Was there any inkling that this
Well,
would
it's not
come
what he
about when he was running
It's not what he
for the job?
campaigned on.
Yeah, it's definitely not what he campaigned
Right.
on.
And this is politics.
At its
As
rawest?
usual, so
Is
as-
this raw politics?
This is blatant, outright propaganda, Goebbels University stuff, okay? This is what I'm going to do. You elect me, but this is what I'm actually going to do. And this is what it is. He got the voter to support him based upon their emotions, which people do in Fall River. They don't vote with their head, they vote with their heart. They vote with their emotions, okay? And I told him when he was running, if you are elected, you're not being elected because they like you or think you can do the job. They're electing you because they don't want Sam. And when you look at the number of votes, it was 6 and change, and they said, no, it's 7. I don't care if it's 699 or 7.
It's much the same.
It's
reason-
much the same number. You didn't win by that much. It wasn't a way that you could walk down the street like Will Flanagan used to say, I won with 70% of the
There wasn't a
vote.
mandate.
There was
wasn't
no
a-
mandate
Didn't
there.
get a mandate,
No.
and that's always a problem.
Right.
When you're holding office and
And I made it very clear.
40-some% of the people really didn't vote for you.
Right, and I made it very
So
clear to
you
his
can walk
staffers.
down the street and 1 out of 2 might be the one.
Yep. And I made it very
Yeah,
clear to
And
his
out of the
voter.
53% who did vote for you, probably only 25% actually voted for you. The rest voted because they didn't want Sam
Sutter.
because he had definitely demonstrated he was on the wrong track.
Right.
Well, close the senior center.
Yep.
I mean, that
closed
really
the
didn't,
senior center,
that really
closed the
didn't.
Trash
library.
fee.
The trash free, put on the Corporation Counsel. There were numerous things that, would irk a voter and say, well, I'm not going to
It's
give.
Fall River. I mean, where else except I watch the news sometimes, and I wonder what people, because they always say what people think of Fall River, and they look at the stats and we're like #1 in poverty and #1 in people below, and then we see all these bad things, and then they talk about how people have a bad impression of Fall River, and then I saw the holdup on television where the 2 guys, it looked like a Star Wars sequence, 2 guys having a sword fight, a knife fight, 1 guy on the counter, and I thought it was like, it's bizarre because I remember a guy from out of town once coming to Fall River, and I said, well, what do you think? And his response to me was the original Star Wars. He said, you remember that bar sequence in the original Star Wars, where the guy walked in, you had all these alien creatures. He said, that's what I feel like when I come to Fall River. I'm in Star Wars.
No, the mayor said that he wants to be around for 10 years. He's made that statement a couple of times.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Is that what you might call off the table now?
I think it's going to be pretty much off the table.
I think if he keeps going the way he is, he's going to be hard pressed to get another term. He might maybe even finish this term.
Well, he might have a hard time finishing this term because, as you know, I mean, you've been approached already by another city who's got a recall. I have been approached by putting together a campaign and I actually got a hold of elections today, and she said, don't you dare swear at me. And I said, what? She goes, don't say the word recall. I said, no, I'm calling you about Section 38. I need to know about how the petition's going to be
recall
formatted.
in Fall River, that's synonymous now.
But you know why? Because Lawrence called yesterday and today. I spoke to the guy from Lawrence, the reporter, because Fall River is the only one that actually made it happen.
Right.
We did it.
There's been
Lawrence
recall
has had
petitions.
4 or 5 recalls.
But never
been successful. We are the only city ever to be successful.
That's why the dynamics of the politics in Fall River has changed so much, in a sense, because Fall River did it.
We are the front runner.
It shows that it went really deep into the people's minds.
We are the front runners.
They wanted to get out there and show the rest of the
we're at the
Commonwealth
top of
they
the
could do
worst
something.
in everything. We're at the top of the worst in everything except that we can recall the mayor.
I think we sent the message too, and I told the guy from Lawrence, I said, look, we made it very clear that we did this. This was an extreme measure. It's not because people said, well, if you get a recall, you're going to recall somebody every time you don't like one decision. And I'm not talking recall. Believe me, it's not me. People are talking it. But because to me, that's an extreme measure. I mean, we had just started a 3rd term for a mayor that I felt literally destroyed the city. So it was an extreme measure. In Lawrence, they've had like 5 recalls already. Every mayor they recall. But they're never successful. It's kind of like Chicken Little. You know, they continue to do it, but they're never successful. But in Fall River, people get nervous because when you talk recall, we're the only city that ever made it happen.
Right.
Yeah, and that could send a Dan, what do you think? That could send a chill down a politician's spine because Fall River has done it.
Clearly, the recall did engage the political process like we've never seen before. In the last 20, 25 years, you've never seen the interest in the local government that you see now, and it was all precipitated by the recall.
Now, the city council meeting last night, did you get an array of people to address the council for the 3 minutes?
No, there was very few speakers.
So was it a mild session in a sense?
There was no discussion on anything.
No.
How about the turnout in a chamber?
Turnout was fair.
Yeah. And you know, the thing is that, you know, as we said before, the recall was an extreme measure that we had to take. We have other options available to us as citizens in Fall River.
Go ahead. Give us
Okay? And one of those options is Section 38, which is called an initiative petition.
Section 30.
Yep.
Sounds like the Army. Section
I know,
8.
really. And I called elections today. Well, I actually called the city clerk.
Okay, what is Section 38 then?
Section 38 allows the citizens to override the city council and the school committee and the mayor by putting before the voters a question to rescind an ordinance or an action. Ordinance, resolution, or action.
Well, you're talking about on the ballot.
Yeah, a special election has to be held within 30 days of filing the paperwork.
All right.
That sounds
let me,
to
yeah,
me
let
like
me,
smacks of communism.
when you say file the paperwork, what does that mean?
You have to draft a petition,
Okay.
stating with specificity.
Oh,
I'm using legal terms now. With specificity, what you want to do. Okay. So, for instance, we wish to rescind the ordinance governing pay-as-you-throw bags.
Okay, let's get one step further.
Yep.
We're running, what do you do after that? You get that
You file it with the city
specificity.
clerk.
Okay.
You get the signatures, 15% of the voters.
How much?
15%.
Well, it's still
3,000 voters.
Well, it's still a big.
When you're talking money, people sign.
And
Okay.
how many voters? Registered voters, 15%.
Approximately 50,000, 49 plus.
You need a little over 3,000 registered voters to sign. You file that with the city clerk, who turns it over to the registrar of voters. They have the options of certifying the signatures. If they choose not to, they send it back to the city clerk. It goes to the city council. they immediately have to either say, okay, fine, they're going to do this, let them do it, or we are going to change the ordinance according to this petition. So you can save the city the money of a special election.
Okay, now, let me ask you this question. What kind of ordinance would you want to have repealed?
Well, let's start talking about an underride. They keep racking up the bills and racking up the taxes just so that they can keep giving their cronies jobs. Well, hit them in the pocketbook. Take some of that money away. Take away the ordinance for a chief of staff. We never had one before. Before Eddie Lambert, we never had one. Okay? Take away the ordinance for a special assistant.
Excuse me.
Oh, Bob, come on, don't tell me.
What?
What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's, I'm sure that the politicians would be incensed over the fact because they continue to say that, what are we trying to do? But what we're trying to do is, as I was encouraged by the President's State of the Union, because at the end of the speech, he reminded people that we not only should disagree, we should argue vigorously, but not get personal. But because this government is supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. The Massachusetts Constitution, my favorite thing, on the part of the first, Article 5 states very clearly that at all times, all elected officials and magistrates of the government are at all times the agents and answerable to the people. And the fact is that our Constitution, our state Constitution, demands that these people that are supposed to be our representatives.
So when they put their
at
hand
all
up-
times answer. Exactly. They are not. They have not been sworn in as a duke, a duchess, a king, or a queen. They are being sworn in as an agent of the people, and to do the people's business. And I think it's absolutely great that we have these things on the ballot. But as usual, the politicians make it as difficult as possible to exercise those rights. But maybe it's coming because, we're going to have a press conference tomorrow, and they're coming fast and furious, these changes. But I'm not seeing a lot of changes that indicate that anybody in this administration has their finger on the pulse of the people.
Well, so that press conference is tomorrow, 3:30. Is that going to be on the 6th floor, or is that going to be in the council chamber?
That'll be in the.
I don't know, there may be a barge out in the Taunton River with it, but I'm only.
I love.
And public is invited?
I don't know. We don't know.
Well, it's the government,
It's a press
it's the
conference.
people's
yeah.
building, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. They have the, during the city council meeting, they have the police walking around to kick people out. But you know what I love about this petition, right?
Tell me.
Under Section 40, it says that if we don't meet the 15% requirement, as long as we meet the 8% requirement, it still goes to ballot.
Okay, now why is that?
Says it in here, under proceedings if initiative petition is not properly signed. If an initiative petition is signed by registered voters equal in number to at least 8%, but less than 15% of the total number of registered voters, and said measure is not passed without alteration within 20 days by the city council or the school committee as provided in the preceding section, such proposed measure without alteration shall be submitted by the city clerk to a vote of the registered voters of the city at the next regular municipal election. So, like it or not,
You're the attorney, you read it.
No, not now.
like it or not,
Running out.
like it or not, the people.
Well, that's right, attorneys take a long time to read everything.
They get
that
paid. They get paid by the hour.
We take things under advisement.
Maybe you can apply for the next assistant corporate counsel.
From
But-
Florida?
But this is the thing. The people have the right to do this. So if you don't want to pay more taxes, put together an initiative petition and do an underride, and it's by a dollar figure.
Have you anything in mind, CJ?
Well, it's not what I have in mind. It's what I've been asked to research. So of course I researched it. I went to the.
Asked by who?
There are a party of people who want to do this.
Okay, so.
And the thing is that I went to elections and asked them.
This for me?
Yeah, you can have that one.
Yeah.
What is the form of the petition? Nobody knows. Nobody
right.
knows how to format the petition.
Here's the, this is Tuesday's paper, Herald News.
familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Our
that's-
View, the opinion page, and it starts off, hiring his friends. Now, it's an editorial.
Yeah, I read it.
Well, what I'm getting at is this. Usually when the Herald News starts nipping at your heels, and so early on, is that a sign that this man has a problem?
Oh, I think it really, we actually said basically that same thing on our show about 5 hours before
Yep.
the editorial came out. But the fact is, yeah, it's not very good. When you, as you said, he wasn't even basically a week into his term, and he's already, and I believe there's another one coming out saying strike 2.
Yep.
Out of the paper?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another one coming out very shortly.
What's that?
I guess Mark or Dion's writing something about strike 2.
Or Mark, what's his name?
The other guy, yeah.
Yeah. Mike Moran.
Mike Moran,
Yeah.
strike 2, and people they're not happy already, and they've given him a nickname, which is
The Boy Emperor.
the Boy Emperor.
Boy
So,
Emperor.
Yep.
Well,
not good.
In approximately 9 to 10 days.
Not an auspicious debut.
That could be the shortest honeymoon in governmental history.
Yeah.
usually you get 100 days, but this
He's-
is 10% almost or
Well,
less.
you know, Richard, most of this, if not all of it, he has brought on directly himself
Right.
through his lack of good, solid political advisors and his complete lack of political inexperience. That's what has caused this.
Yeah, and also the fact that he basically did a 180 on everything he said during his campaign.
Yeah,
I mean,
like-
it's difficult to get the people on your side when your first act as the mayor is to retain 2 people who you basically were the focus and the focal point of your campaign against Sutter. The financial team led by Kathy Ann, and you retain her, and Joe Macy at his part-time job, you retain both, and now the first thing you do is you create a job and get into a business we shouldn't be in to spend money that we don't have, and then just to put the icing on the cake, you tell everybody it's for one of your friends.
Right. And the biggest problem I see this mayor as having is throughout the entire election cycle, then Mayor Sutter turned around and said that his entire framework, his resume, everything was a facade. It wasn't real. It was all smoke and mirrors.
He's talking
And-
about the mayor's current
during the mayor's race, right. He said it was
resume.
all smoke and mirrors. And of course, me being who I am, I started researching a lot
Oh,
of it.
yeah.
And honestly, I can't find a lot of things to back up some of his claims. I can't find a lot of things to
The mayor's
refute it.
claims.
Right, the now mayor's claims. But you know, the truth of the matter is, he was at that time a 23-year-old guy who had no verifiable source of income except for his city council pay, and he was living life like that of a millionaire, playing jet trips to Paris and flights to Washington and going everywhere and doing everything and surrounding himself and doing the bidding of people who needed TIFs, variances, and everything else.
Okay.
And now all of a sudden, those people are on his advisory team.
All right. We get the gist of what you're saying, and this is not the end. This
Never
is
will
only
be.
the beginning. Anything to add, Dan, Bob, CJ, very quickly?
Let's wait and see what happens by our next show. He's got at least another 3 weeks to do some,
It's like
some
poker.
bigger and better things.
It's like poker. We're not going to recall, but we might call. All right. Thank you, panelists, for being on my show, and thank you out there for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I did.